Okay, I hope I can be heard. Um I don't know what's going on. I'm going live because I have errands and stuff to do, and excuse my crooked glasses. My new glasses are screwed up, and so I have to wait for them. Okay, this is probably the second time I've gone live with by myself. Third time. Well, only be a few minutes, and I didn't put on my girdle or my makeup or my high-heeled shoes in honor of Dinky Donald Trump. But I hope you can hear me. If you can, and you're in chat, let me know. But I don't really expect anyone to be in chat or to see this live, so that's all right. I don't care. I just wanted to get this message out there, and hopefully somebody will see it or read it someday, or it'll end up in the general gestalt through AI or whatever. Aloha, this is Adam Westish. I am pointing out the harassers of the day. Wrong way. That car right there is HHU 618. They do a lot of harassment. I think they're probably a drug car here on the Big Island, but I don't really know. They're just stupid and irritating. So anyway, harassers of the day, right? I'm not part of the system, so I get harassed. So what I'm going to do is I wrote out a few notes, and then I'm going to sort of read them off and hope that you can hear me, because the audio meter says that my audio is at a decent level, but the microphone is dying. And like all YouTubers, even if they're at the Boit, like me and 21st Century Suffragettes and Benny Loco, but say me far below those people, my friends. Yeah, we're not often heard, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'll beg for money later. But anyway, if you want to help me, there's links in the description. Okay, so I want to call this Whose God Are You Worshipping? There's a different title that I pasted in the description, but okay, let's see. Oh, I have to sign into chat? Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm going to sign into chat. I thought it would just go. Okay, I'm not going to do that then. Okay, apparently chat will show up in this other window, so I hope it's true. Okay, you're going to see me looking at different screens a lot. Like the background behind me is in that direction from opposite what it looks like on camera. And you're going to see Tiger jumping up on the table in front of me because she likes to be on camera. She's a camera whore. So anyway, this is called Whose God Are You Worshipping? Are you worshipping the God inside or the God outside? Or are you worshipping a God, or are you enlightened at all? So what I mean is that you can say that you're listening to God, but usually, or to your enlightened nature, but usually you're just listening to your programming. And a lot of the time that has to do with whatever programming you were raised with, whatever programming narcissistic people embedded in you, and you're listening to the programming that just appeared on your algorithm posing as your religion or your group or your friends or your whatever. And I'm going to credit right here a bunch of different people. First, there's 21st Century Suffragettes for the feminism. There's Marina Karlova for the systems disruption, anti-programming. There's Parkrose Permaculture, who talks about capitalism a lot. And yes, that's what I call capitalism. It is called capitalism. I don't know who came up with that term, but I agree with it. I credit BourbNBougie for more feminist and narcissistic survivor talk from her viewers on Reddit, and also want to credit some other people that I can't think of at the moment. So we see right now ICE is abusing people. We have a military within the country now acting against U.S. citizens, totally against the Constitution, and nobody is stopping them. So you know that the system is fucked, no matter what anyone else says. And excuse me for saying a lot. So we have two sets of rules, clearly. We've always had that. We've had the rich and powerful rules versus the rules told to you. Like in the old days when the Roman Catholic Church was more of a political machine than a religious machine, I maintain that it's become more of a religious machine than a spiritual religious machine than a political machine, just like some types of Buddhism have gone the other way, have moved from, like the SGI, which is another cult, moving from being a spiritual machine, or spiritual and religious machine, to being a political machine. Well, because cults are mainly about ostracism. If you can't ostracize someone from the cult, it doesn't have much power, right? Because if you're ostracized from the cult, you don't get the benefits of life that people within the cult get. So that's how they punish and control you, right? So there's the inner God and there's the outer God. The inner God is what tells you yourself that you're morally correct. And then there's an outer God. There's programming that comes from the outside. Wow, the frogs are busy today. Okay, so you have, boy, my throat's dry. Anyway, we have information networks transmitting this information around, telling people what to think. We have, networks all around for thousands of years. We've always had that. If you strip away the mysticism of religion away, you realize that most of it is just, information networks and spilling private information and information sharing, usually illicit. Marina Karlova talks about how Carl Jung thought of the subconscious as this gigantic network, and it was this mystical thing, and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, yeah, he helps people become adapted to the system, but the system itself is what you have to question, because those networks of information come from outside of you. They're not from inside of you. They're not, in other words, they're not really enlightenment. They're not really wisdom. They're just what do you call it? Programming. Somebody else telling you what to do. You have there's Gary's Economics. He was talking about how he criticized Citibank and got away with it. He had a good cop, bad cop type of setup where one dude would come in and abuse him, and then another dude, I think it was both men, would come in and tell him, oh, how great he was, and so it was carrot and stick all the time to program him to say what they wanted him to say. And it didn't work on him. He criticized the bank and left. But that's what capitalism is. It's just a portable slavery system. So who gives a fuck, right? Here we are transferring wealth from... Hold on, let me make sure the stream is still running. I guess it's... I don't know if it's running. It says it's running. It says I'm streaming, but I don't see anything anywhere that indicates that. Okay, let me check my network throughput. But I am recording this, so in case this doesn't go live, I at least know. And it looks like my Ethernet usage is pretty high up there, so it looks like the stream is going out. So and I don't see any participants in the live at all, except Oh, I am there, so I think it's working. Okay, so we have so hypocrisy is part of that, is built in. Hypocrisy is built into the system. The hypocrisy of the wealthy and the ones in charge doing what they want and telling you one set of rules and them following another. This is totally 100% intentional. It has to do with the transfer of wealth. Parents, of course, want to advantage their kids, and this has always been true. So this is in a lot of cultures, not necessarily Hawaiian cultures or other cultures. I don't know your part of the world, how it traditionally was, but it was often done through men, and it doesn't have to necessarily been done through men for it to be evil, in my view, because it all has to do with transferring the wealth from generation to generation and doing it through lying, telling people that they're owed this just because they were born with that particular magical last name, as Hal Sparks says. Magical families, right? Those families, the more wealth they have, they control the slave class, and capitalism and the abolition of slavery did not end slavery. They just made slavery portable, so that wherever there's money, there's slavery. If you are on the low end of the money spectrum, you are of the slave class. If you have a lot of money, you are of the owner class. And every few years, if the poor get too much income, they have to drain the money out. This is, I forget if it was Karlova that said this. God, these crooked glasses. Every few decades or so, as the poor get too much money, you have to drain their money out. So you do things like impose tariffs, you raise fees, you make it so that only the poor pay taxes and the rich don't. You get it, right? That's what's happening again. Obama in 2008 faced one of these intentional crashes, and their answer was to bail out and give the rich even more money. And if we did that, somehow some of it would trickle down, just like Reagan, to the poor. And I'm one of those fortunate few who we managed to save our home using that trickle down. But most of the people I know who had homes around then did not manage to save their did not manage to have anything trickle down, because the rules were stacked against them. And it was only because we knew all the right people and we were attached to enough wealth at that time that we were able to keep our home. And Obama, so this brings up another point, which is I really liked Obama, up until then, that and him killing what's his face on my birthday. He killed Osama bin Laden. He just assassinated him. And to me, I understand why he did it, but kind of some of the reasons why he did it, but we're definitely not being told the whole truth about all of that. And also that was pretty illegal, and it just cemented for me the United States' sorry about my weird hair. I have it pulled into a ponytail. See, anyway, this brings up my point about Obama and why, even though Republicans are just outright evil, the Democrats haven't been much better. And it's because the owner class doesn't really want the slave class to have freedom. So we're never given the choice between a liberal and a conservative. We're only given the choice between a liberal who will barely move the needle, a semi-liberal who will barely move the needle, or a Republican who will just drive everything off the cliff of fascism. And that's what we have right now. Is they've lost their patience. Their Orange Queen is dying, and they want to drive this fascism bus off the cliff while AI will let them grab up all the jobs and then really create the matrix for all of us. So anyway, people wonder too, like, why do we have Donald Trump and why do we have him twice? And it's because the whole system is set up for this. It's been set up for this for millennia. That's why Me Too was such a big deal. And it is still a big deal. That's why DEI is important, because these are, and that's why the New Deal was important. That's why the end of the Depression happened. If the rich had had their way, it would have been straight back to slavery after the Depression. But, there was enough of an American system back then to pull things back from the brink. Now that's all been undermined and we don't have that anymore. So it may take systemic collapse, which is, who cares? The system is clearly not helping any of us, really. I mean, it's keeping a lot of people from starvation, but if something happens to the system, they're going to have to be helped in other ways. So let me just say that while we don't need the system, we do have to prepare for the end of it and prepare ASAP. And anyway, it shouldn't be what we have to think about, but we do have to think about it, at least. So I don't mean to panic people with Trump Depression Syndrome. TDS is Trump Depression Syndrome, i.e. the intentional depression that he leverages on all of us on a daily psyop, just like his boss Vladimir Putin did. Let me move on to, let me see my blah, blah, blah. Okay, Marina Karlova is the one who called it the parasite, and I agree. But it's more like Elon Musk, how he accused the poor of being the parasite class. I mean, Elon Musk is the parasite class. The rich are the parasite class. And the richer, the more parasitic, the more entitled, etc., right? So let's go on to Putin, Musk, Trump, MBS. Oh yeah, the same shit, different day. Okay, let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Let me look at my notes. Hypocrisy is a tool. People will believe what they want to get what they want. That's a statement from Gary's Economics. They can say any religious or political belief they want, but people will, he demonstrated through the metaphor of playing a game of Monopoly, that people will gaslight themselves into believing whatever they want to believe in order to get what they want. So the rich are allowed this chameleonism, but the poor have to follow fake moral rules invented for them by the various cults they're in. And I know this because I started speaking out against the SGI, the Buddhist group that I belong to. And it has a lot of good things about it. But it is owned and run by a billionaire who is now deceased and whose family now owns and runs it. And it's got a lot of enlightened things to it, but it still does what all other cults do, which is it demands free labor. It doesn't necessarily help anyone in times of need, and it maintains its own wealth. And what's the other? And it ostracizes you if you don't follow the rules. And I've definitely been ostracized. Every once in a while, one of those people will come up to me and try to talk to me, and then it'll get into systemic thinking, and then I'm either bitching them out or regretting my decision to talk, and then I'm ostracized. But I've been ostracized many times in many, many ways because I tell the truth, sometimes inconveniently. I try not to ruin people's lives with the truth, But if you come against me and hurt my life, I will speak on it. And even if I don't destroy you, the truth will generally destroy you, as it's now destroying Donald Trump. Donald Trump is almost dead, clearly. So let's see. So hypocrisy is the tool. People will believe what they want to believe to get what they want. People want to transfer wealth. I'm going to read off my notes here. Generation to generation. The parasite maintaining itself through families and lineages trained to keep control of the slave class. Get it, right? And if you divide up all the other people against each other, then there's nobody to fight your firstborn son for all that wealth, right? Or daughter. Anyway, patriarchy serves this by keeping only certain sons / people in charge. It's more a male-focused oligarchy than strictly a patriarchy. That's why Erika Kirk is allowed to grift for her dead husband, who was murdered by a Trumpie after he criticized Donald Trump on the day that Trumpie Republicans originally voted not to release the Trump Epstein files, blowing the news of the pro-Trump vote out of the water. Notice the word that shows up a lot in that paragraph. Maybe I should redact it. How do you keep the slave class poor? By draining it of money every few decades when it accumulates too much wealth. Crashing markets, making property worthless, siphoning off wealth through tariffs and fees and taxes. Notice that only the poor pay taxes now, and the majority of the money goes only to the military outside, which are the branches of the armed forces, to enforce empire, and inside, which is ICE / KKK, citizen abuse. The masks hide their membership in Nazi groups like the KKK and Proud Boys and Three Percenters and Bug Up the Butt Boys or Tent Stake Up the Ass Boys or whatever they're called. Anyway, so Putin, Musk, Trump, and MBS are all the same shit, right? Same shit, different year. Qatar, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, all being, religious oligarchies run by very few. The USA and Europe, USA has devolved into that. Europe, which has modernized and kept their democracy because there are things that are like DEI and regulation of capitalism set in long before America, so they're harder to dislodge. And parts of Africa and Asia are also apparently happier, but probably only because there's just nobody has any wealth rather than everybody having wealth. Does that make sense? Roman Catholic Church, old and new cult versus other cults. That's because I maintain that the Roman Catholic Church, which was founded on the myth of Jesus, who never existed, may have been he may have been copied from tiger's here purring. He may have been copied from a Roman general, and made into the original Bible that was taken from the Torah and then added on to the Roman government taking pieces of pagan and the early cult that became Christianity and then compiling it into their own propaganda version, just like QAnon. And in fact, it even has a lot of the same stuff as QAnon, which I've seen online since the early 2000s. QAnon has been around as a bunch of conspiracy theories on bulletin board systems before the internet and the web existed. And let's see. Yeah. So anyway, so what happened was my a former friend, Dmitry Boldyrev, who wrote MacAmp and who is a Russian expat who was raised in Ukraine, in Chernobyl, and was born there around, I think, 1986 or so, around the time of the accident, he told me, and he just loves Putin. And many years ago, he warned me that Putin was stepping up cyber attacks on the USA, and USA better watch out because he's going to take over the country. And I was pretty chilled by that because I believed him. And I've seen it come to fruition, so now I totally believe him. But anyway, QAnon is just old bulletin board system bullshit changed to name liberals and Democrats as the bad guys, and the pro-Russia Republicans like Maggot and similar movements as the good guys. And then they publish that online, and then that's all been enhanced through bots. So I still also maintain that Donald Trump's approval rating is about 10%. I don't trust the polls that are out there at all. In the opposite direction than almost everybody else does. I think that they're way too fake conservatives, because there's like 100 conservative bots for every one liberal bot, because most of the numbers you see for liberal stuff are real, whereas the numbers that are more real than the numbers you see for Republicans, which are not real at all. So now she's sick of being held. Okay, no, I'm not going to put you up there. So, okay, there goes the camera. I'll be right back. Okay, so, I need some water. Okay, let's see. Here's ice. Sasha Riley interviews. Poor guy's telling the truth. Let's see. I think most of that is true. The stuff in the Sasha Riley interviews. I know that Donald Trump's a murderer, and 21st Century Suffragettes also agrees on that point, and we always have to dance around the language, or other people have to dance around the language, but I don't care about my numbers or what the algorithm does to my videos, so I won't dance around the language. I'll just say it. Donald Trump is a multiple rapist and murderer and psychopath, and I think Michael Cohen helped him do a lot of that stuff. So let's go back to the slavery thing. So I said that only the poor pay taxes now, and the majority of the money for government goes only to the military outside, aka the armed forces, and inside, ICE/KKK citizen abuse team. So this is this is the subsummation of all of our institutions that were formerly welfare. So now we have some welfare left. They know they're getting mass riots, so they haven't been able to cancel healthcare and food stamps and stuff. They were hoping for bigger riots when they canceled food stamps, but they underestimated people, and they underestimated the guardrails. But under the cult of capitalism, or the cult of ostracism, which is another good name for it, $1 equals one vote. Only irrelevancies are voted on. Why didn't Biden prosecute Trump? Because he couldn't. Why didn't Obama try harder to bail out homeowners than he bailed out the banks? Because he couldn't. He managed to soften the gigantic crash, but he didn't eliminate the crash. What tells ICE KKK members hiding their faces to abuse the populace totally against the Constitution? What allows the Supreme Court to make anti-human decisions, like removing a woman's right to abortion via a stupid pussyfooting ruling that doesn't explicitly say that, but has that effect? What kind of language are people using around you, and why? What does Trump's word salad mean? What does the pseudo-biblical, pseudo-Jungian speech clogging up your algorithm mean, and who is saying it and why? The anti-vaxxer movement, for example, started, or rather was given steroids, with Russia. Now you have the ignorant, idiots and morons repeating things that aren't true, sharing untrue so-called facts, and clogging the infosphere with their own versions of the original anti-vaxxer lie. People will post, there's a politician on Kauai, an idiot named Felicia Longy-Cowden, who is hosting an anti-vaxxer event, and no matter what you say to her, she won't acknowledge the fact that Russia funded all this information, and she won't tell you who is funding the event, because it's some right-wing neo-Nazi disinformation group that's doing it. They have the Plandemic moron. They made that stupid movie that's not true at all about how the origins of COVID. You have all these debunked doctors who lost their license or who never were really doctors in the first place, spewing a bunch of fake numbers that have been shown, all of their numbers. I've read a lot of this stuff, and so I'm not even going to bother getting into it. But all their information is lies. In fact, the other day, I just got 4 vaccines. I was due for some vaccines and some follow-ups, and since there are some things I don't think I was ever vaccinated for as a child, I'm just making sure I'm updated. And I got 4 on one day. I felt a little bit sick the next day. She warned me that that was an awful lot, and that one of them was a really heavy one. So I was likely to feel that way. And it was true. I did feel a little bit under the weather. But I'll tell you, I haven't tested myself only but one time during COVID, but excuse me. I don't think I've ever had COVID. If I did, I had a very mild version of it. And I was a little bit worried about it because I was born with asthma, severe asthma. So I was worried that I would get really sick if I got COVID. I wasn't worried about it, but it was a concern. So I stayed updated on my vaccines for that and other things. But anyway, so what does that pseudo-biblical speech clogging up your algorithm mean? It means you're supposed to listen to my version of God and Jesus, or the Torah, or even Buddhism, or Jungianism, or Confucianism, or whatever. It's, it's faceless, it's untrustworthy, it's often from a bot farm. So let's see, that's the part about the anti-vaxxers. Oh, and why do they want Americans to be not vaccinated? Because it disrupts America. You don't trust scientists, you trust politicians who pretend to be doctors instead of trusting scientists and doctors. And it also kills more people, and that's their goal. Their goal is to kill as many Americans as they can, and they've done a lot of that. They've done. Donald Trump his biggest list of accomplishments needs to start with the number of people he's managed to murder. He managed to murder at least like 1 million Americans under COVID, and who knows how many millions of people worldwide with his bullshit. And then cutting U.S. aid and all the other crap that Doge did has resulted in 300,000 to 600,000 more deaths so far in Africa and other places. And you see nothing about that anywhere, on any news, anywhere. Hi, girl. She wants more attention. So the moment that we decide that we've had enough of all these lies, the moment we decide that the rich have no power, that money is meaningless, etc., the entire system collapses. The moment that we don't allow false gods to control us, the system collapses. And we don't need the system. Marina Karlova has a good video about that, about how what do you need even what is this myth about if the system goes away, everything goes to hell? She goes, it seems the other way around. It seems every time you try to encourage people against the system itself punishes you. It's not the lack of the system that punishes you. It's the system punishing you for not obeying the system. So we don't need it. We don't need it anymore. I would argue we need a lot of the institutions. We need people to grow and distribute food. We need our computer parts. We need the individual things that parts of the system produce, but we don't need the overarching power structure, and we certainly don't need things to be done the way they're done. Like, why is plastic still legal? Plastic should have been made illegal before it even became a thing. In the 1890s, my understanding was that scientists were already telling the future petroleum barons that it was a very bad idea to burn and use petroleum for environmental reasons that were well known and laid out and have been known for 130 years. So why did it ever become a thing? And my answer is that slavery and capitalism / portable slavery, it's all regressive. It's not progressive. It's the old guard. It's the old way of doing things. Star Trek economy is more the future. Who knows if a fictional TV show can be used as a model for reality, but it should be done. So my point was from that note was we don't need the system. You can tell the institutions for the most part serve only to punish and steal. The ones that don't will survive. The ones that punish and ostracize won't survive, including capitalism and dictatorship. So this goes back to my harassers du jour. Here they are, bothering me all the time, just part of the machine, trying to beat down people who don't comply, and fuck them, and fuck this dumb system, and have a great day, and aloha, and much love. Adam Westish out, and if you feel like it, help me out. Help me and Gen X George out, maybe. Down in the description. Aloha. Have a great day. Oh, I wanted to share this before I go. I wanted to show you an example of the system screwing me over, because I've been screwed over by the system like bunches and bunches of times. Here's 101 Things. This is a website that I worked for. No, I produced the website. Actually, it was my website. And my boss, Greg Gardner, had my coworker, who was also my landlord, Luther Burney, break into my house and steal my passwords from the ICANN database, and took my domain name 101things.com and stole my website, and he sold it to Gannett Publishing for $8 million, and then hit me with a slap suit for $100,000, and I was almost homeless for the first time after that. And this is just one of like 9 or 10 times that something like this has happened to me. I guess I was just having narcissistic mom really set me up for, or maybe, I don't know, both parents, who knows, but definitely my mom set me up for narcissistic victimhood my entire life. And boy did they use me. They used me really well. But anyway, so this is 101 Things. I just wanted to show it's really ugly and shitty. It always kind of was ugly and shitty because of the things they made me do, but now it's like, it's just devolved into this. It's even worse. But yeah, so, but here's my friends at Suffragettes. Subscribe to them. Here's BourbNBougie, who's just brilliant, the feral feminist. Here's Marina Karlova, who is also brilliant, and she's great at breaking down systems. And here's a new one I just found today. I really like Gary's economics. He sounds like a British bloke. Sounds very smart. So anyway, that's my reading list. I hope everyone